A lot of guys in ECW, they couldn't really go anywhere else because maybe bigger companies wouldn't feature them. WCW might not push the Sandman the way that ECW did. But you're someone who could have gone to one of the big companies and you didn't go during the heyday of ECW. Why do you think ultimately you stayed?
ECW was my preferred style. That was my best showcasing. And really that's where I thrive, is showing not only my durability, but also creative offense maneuvers. I never, Sabu trained me, and he's as original also. He was always like, don't try and take someone else's spot or be like someone else, because there's already one of those guys. Just be yourself. And so we always were making our own path, and doing that by doing moves or styles that nobody else was doing. We thought everyone else that just copied everybody's moves from different companies, we thought they were ridiculous. And now I look at it, that's everybody but me and Sabu. I mean, it seems like, and that's not the way I was trained, and I'm glad that I was trained the way that I was. The Sheik, who is Sabu's uncle, he had the hands-on training, and Sabu was in the ring with me. He was as original as it could get. And so he just said, just listen to me. Nobody else knows what the you're talking about. You'll get advice from everybody, conflicting advice, which I did for several years, but I could always count on the Sheik when he was around. Hey, this guy said, blah, blah. This guy said, hey, Al Snow's telling me that when you shake somebody's hand, you're supposed to shake it light, and that tells them, like, what a good worker you are or something. I don't know. It feels weird. Sheik said, F that. You grab someone's hand and you squeeze it. I was like, all right, cool. And that's what I've always done.
We can't talk about ECW without talking about Paul Heyman. What is one of your favorite Paul Heyman stories from when he ran ECW?
Favorite Paul Heyman story. Well, that takes some thinking. That's more of a Big Show story, though.
Feel free to tell us. Feel free to tell us if one's come to mind.
I don't know if I should tell that one. Okay. Well, this is what came to mind when you asked me. So, Paul Heyman was managing Big Show in WWE for a while, right? And I got closer to Big Show through Paul, because I would hang out with Paul, and then the three of us would be together. I rode on his bus and all kinds of stuff, but I don't think I did that before Paul kind of like brought us together. And one time I was in Big Show's room, and me and Paul were both in there, and we were just talking. We were just talking, and we were in Texas, I think, and Whataburger. Do you guys know what Whataburger is? Yeah. Okay, well, because those are like not everywhere, but they're popular in Texas, and Paul was saying, oh my God, you should have seen what he ordered at Whataburger. And I guess Big Show had ordered like a lot, he was several burgers, this and that, whatever, I don't know. And Big Show the whole time, Paul's on one bed, it's two beds in the room. Paul's on one bed, I'm sitting in a chair, and Big Show, I'm sure I've never told this story publicly, because I'm about to reenact something I just know I've never done. But Big Show is way over the one bed that's against the wall. Big Show is leaning on the bed like this, against the wall, with the wall behind him, and he's just paying attention to the room in conversation. And wow, you ate that much? And he's like, I love Whataburger, And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. We're talking, and a few minutes later, Big Show starts to get up, and he goes, he just completely no-sold it. And I'm like, dude, did you just yourself? And Big Show goes, a little. That's my Paul Heyman story.
I'm sure the Big Show is really glad that story came to mind. I'm never going to get that out of my head. So
Me either.
Anyway, so ECW obviously ends in 2001, and you go to WWF, and you debut in July as part of the Alliance. But I mean, I know that WWF were the only company left around, but was it an easy decision to make to go there? Or was it a difficult decision, you know, between sort of March and July?
It wasn't easy to make that decision, but I think when you were asking that, you were talking about specifically about me joining the Alliance and stuff, and I had no idea that was even going to happen. So at that point in my career in 2001, I'd been wrestling, you know, since my first matches in '90. And I looked at WWE as selling out, you know, like we were in ECW, we were insulted by the way they would copy our products, our specific things that we did on our show, but they would water them down, you know what I mean? Like put mattresses, you know, for them to land on when they're taking a bump off the stage. We didn't do that. We had tables and cement, and that was part of what we were. And, you know, we never heard of gimmicking a table or a chair so it falls apart. You know, the fans would hand us their chairs, and they knew they were real. And so I really looked at it like it was selling out. But in 2001, if I wanted to continue being a professional wrestler on TV in the United States, there was no other option. So WWE had bought everybody up, and Paul had been there for a while, and I knew that he really had to swallow some pride to go there. And, you know, I kind of got over that enough to figure, well, you know, he's got to do what he's got to do. Anybody does. And they were the only ones left, and I thought at that point, you know, that when I was ready, I mean, I had the offers waiting for me. You know, there was open door for me, and when I was ready, I called Paul and said, yeah, I'm ready to talk to the guys in WWE. And he said, okay, great. I had to meet JR at the Marriott by the LAX because I had a reputation for being hard to get along with. And that's because when we did the invasion angle in '97, when I didn't like what was going on, I split and I pulled us all out of there. And that's a different story, answer to a different question. But because that happened, I had to meet with JR, everything went well. And, you know, I signed a contract and came in, and it was like the first night at WWE, I thought, you know, they're going to erase my history, call me Robin Van Dam. I'm going to be a bird or something, and Robber Van Dam, like have a bank robber mask or something. And then I saw Tommy Dreamer, and I was like, Tommy, what are you doing here? And he threw me an ECW shirt, and I was like, what? And I was like, I couldn't have been happier, because I had no idea that they even were doing the Alliance, that I was part of it. And then to represent ECW and not bury my past, but add depth to it, I was all for it. So I was stoked.
And then when you get there, because you've been in ECW with kind of your friends and you've known the environment, how quickly did you realize when you got to WWE that it's more political, and how did you navigate that?
It didn't take long. It was right away. And it drove me nuts, you know, and I never did feel comfortable there like I did in ECW. The whole time I was there, for one, they I think this is probably something that nobody is excluded from. There's always exceptions, but probably they make a lot of promises they don't keep. So that's enough to drive anybody frustrated. I think that happens to everybody because there's so many agents. They meet 3 times a day trying to figure out what to do. This guy's pulling for his guys. This guy's pulling for his guys, you know. And so that was going on. You know, Paul's trying to say, yeah, you know, we need someone in the main event. We should put RVD in there. And then somebody in the office is saying, no, you know, let's put somebody else. I think this guy would be a better guy. And that's you know, I'm hearing all this that's going on in all the meetings. But besides that, what would drive me nuts, I told you how I got there, right? I told you the path I went. Who do you give credit to? JR or Paul? It shouldn't matter, but it does. And these guys would argue about it, and they would be like playing tug of war with me. Like my first few days there, like it was just crazy. Like JR would be like, hey, I got you that extra money you were talking about. You know, I bet your buddy from Philadelphia don't do that for you, does he? And then Paul would say something, you know, just as ridiculous, you know, about, you know, is he telling you that he's trying to get you in that match? Don't do, you know, and it was just like, are you guys for real right now? Like, dude, I'm here to do kicks and flips and be RVD, and it was so political, and it's like, it really depends on, like, they want credit, not just for that, for bringing me in, but like every idea that happens, anything on TV that anyone can validate their existence by, they're all for it, and they put everything into it. It's a competition in that way, and it's stressful.
I mean, so speaking of stressful, then one of your first big rivalries is with The Undertaker in late 2001. And he had a reputation in 2001 kind of, you know, he maybe wasn't wanting to sell for people or whatever. What was your experience like with Undertaker in 2001?
I don't think there was anything remarkable about my impression of The Undertaker. I mean, when I worked with him, everything was fine. I was told that he put the kibosh on my push when I was on that run and beat Stone Cold and beat The Rock and was really rocking. I was told that it was The Undertaker that decided that he should beat me. And so, you know, but I mean, everybody that has a right to their opinion. If they're in the office and their opinion is educated on something, you know, so that's their job. But as far as working with him, I actually enjoyed it because he's one guy that, even though I hadn't wrestled him before, you know, I didn't have a big history with him, we wrestled on the road, did a bunch of cage matches, and we never had to talk before the match. And that's something that now people think that's like a myth because of today's wrestling and the, you know, the new style that the new generation is doing. But Undertaker and I would go out there, and neither one of us, we didn't have to, you know, there was no, hey, you know, can you catch my foot on the count of 3? You know, pull it. You know, there was, of course not. And we would go out there, and you know, I think we both knew how it was going to end up. But we had, you know, decent matches. They probably won't be like listed among the best in my career. But as far as working with someone like that, that's old school, it's a treat. It's a treat after working with somebody that thinks it's all about each and every single chop, 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 duck, chop, duck, chop, duck, chop, chop, duck. You know, like, I'm not about that.
I wanted to ask you about a story that I heard about a WWE writer called Seth Mates said that in 2002 when they did the brand split, Brock was going to be the SmackDown champion, you were going to be the Raw champion, and Triple H had said, well, I think it would be better if I had it and then Rob beat me for it, and then that obviously never happened. But was that true? Did you ever hear that?
I heard that, yes. I mean, is it true? I can't say for sure. I didn't hear it from Vince, but yeah, that was, you know, Tommy Dreamer was in the office a lot. He was an office boy, and he would tell us all the time. He had to quit working in the office because he couldn't he couldn't deal with the way they talked down about all the boys, the way they trashed all the boys and talked to them. And basically, I mean, I don't want to ruin it for wrestling fans, but one perspective, if you look at it from this conversation, is the Office guys are the flesh peddlers, you know, so what are we? You know?
What was your relationship like with Vince for the first few years in WWE? Was it good? Did you feel he was approachable? What was the relationship like?
The relationship was good, and I felt like he tried really hard to be approachable, but I had a hard time connecting on anything more than just the bottom level of, nice weather we're having today, huh? Like, he would stop and go out of his way to, you know, stop and shake my hand. How you doing, Rob? Hey. And then it would be like awkward, like neither one of us had anything to say to each other, and be like, so yeah. And it was that's what I remember a lot of it being. I knew he respected me and liked me, and part of it because he was, you know, making that effort to make himself acceptable, but it was kind of like that. I mean, I was always intimidated by the fact that it's Vince McMahon, but also I didn't know what to bond with him on. So, you know, some of the other guys like Kurt Angle and some of the guys that had a real good relationship with him, where they might have gone to his house or whatever, you know, I was like nowhere near that. But, you know, he's someone that I've always respected, and at this point in life, like, he's like a father figure. I look at, and, you know, this is before all the recent news that he has made. But I looked at like all the interviews that I've ever seen him do, and I agree with him like 99% of the time. And so I think he's like one of the most intelligent people that I know, definitely one of the most important, one of the most famous, and there's a lot of value in that for me.
And then, you know, they did the brand split in 2002, and you were on Raw. And over those couple of years, you were the Intercontinental Champion a fair amount of times. Did that feel important to you to be the IC champ? Did it, you know, because you'd obviously grown up with that being a pretty important belt. Did it mean much to you as a wrestler to sort of be in that division and be holding that belt?
I don't think it meant nearly as much as it does to most of the wrestlers. I couldn't tell you most of my career that the fans could tell you about wins, about championships, how many times I've had or who I've beat. And, you know, that was taken out of me before I started my career. Like, before I got in the first time I went to a dressing room, a wrestling dressing room in 1990, I'm 18. Yeah, 18 years old. No, I just turned 19. Anyway, there was a show in Ohio, and the Sheik was wrestling, Sabu was wrestling, Jerry Lawler was on the show. Some of the guys that I had watched on TV were there, and I was training. I hadn't had my first match yet, and Sabu said, you know, you're one of the boys, you're not a mark. No autographs, no pictures, don't talk to anybody unless you're just going to look them in the eye and introduce yourself. Look them in the eye, shake their hand, say, I'm Rob, and then that's it, unless they engage you and ask you anything. And don't talk to anybody. And so I was like, okay, and that was drilled into me. And now it's so different. Like almost every show that I do, I'm taking pictures with the wrestlers in the dressing room after the show, because they want their pictures with me, you know, and I'm not gonna say, Sabu would be like, no, don't be a mark, and he would kick him out, chase him out. But I realized that times have changed like a lot. Not that I think it's for the better, you know, but that was part of my training, was beating the fan out of me, which probably did make my career harder in some ways. But you know, before my first match ever, Sabu said, you can't eat a belt. If a promoter says he wants to give you the belt, you know, try and get more money instead. And so that's always, you know, made sense to me.